Namaste. Welcome to the 14th video in the overall series and introduction to Sanatana Dharma. Today we start a new mini series on the concept of God or the Hindu concept of God. Though I call this the Hindu concept of God, the topics discussed here are universally relevant for the simple reason that there is but one God. Now somebody can say is my God, somebody else can say my God. Ultimately, there is only one supreme being. For this simple reason, the concepts that will be discussed in this mini series are universal. The reason, one important reason for calling this the Hindu concept of God is because these universally applicable concepts were provided by Hinduism or Sanatana Dharma. Further, what I've done is from this video onwards, I will also be sharing a Google Drive link with the content or the presentations that I've put together for this series. It will be available as part of the video description. Uh, I took a week's break. Obviously, there was no video last week because I was putting together for content for this mini series. I've run to about, I think, 24 slides. Today's video covers only I think around 5 to 6 slides. So let's see in how many videos I will be able to cover this content in general. Let's proceed to the video. So let me start with a small correction. In one of the early videos, I had mentioned this phrase Vedokhilo Dharma Moolam, which basically means Vedaha Akhilaha Dharma Moolam. I've seen an alternate uh, sentence which says Vedokhila Dharma Moolam, Vedaha Akhila Dharma Moolam. Somehow this seems to make more sense. It basically means the Veda is the root of all dharmas. So the second sentence seems to be making more sense. If I'm wrong, somebody can correct me. However, instead of Vedokhilo Dharma Moolam, we can probably say Vedokhila Dharma Moolam, Vedaha Akhila Dharma Moolam. Now, let's come to our topic. Let me have an opening statement. Okay. So most, if not all of the content that I share in these videos, I get from the speeches of Sri Samavedam Shanmukha Sarma. This is just a poor reproduction of what he actually says. So he has mentioned this statement, these two statements, in fact, in I think a couple of his videos, that there are obviously so-called monotheistic religions, right, which say that there's only one God. Some of them say theirs is the only God. Let's not get into that right now. Hinduism goes a step further. It says that there is nothing but God. So there is a subtle difference between these two statements. Having one God and having nothing but God. Okay, so let me start with this statement that Hinduism says that there is nothing but God. So it does not just say there is only one God. It says that, by the way. It also says there is nothing but God. Remember the statement. I'll come back to this at a later point of time in the series. Now, as opener in a way, let's say that the term God is technically a bit incorrect for Hinduism. God as a concept, supreme being, is all fantastic. However, in general, it can be said that the word God is an Abrahamic term. There's nothing wrong in using it. However, there are more technically correct terms available. So, for example, if you look at possibly the Bible or the uh, Hebrew texts, you will see a name called Yahweh that is said to be the God, rather that is said to be the name of the God mentioned in that text. However, for daily use, normally when Christians especially refer to the supreme being, the word they use is God. It's an actual name that they use. They say it is God. Okay, so that is the reason I said for Sanatana Dharma Hinduism, there are more technically correct terms. Again, if you remember the earlier statement, any and all, any name and all names in Hinduism which have a Sanskrit base are adjectives and describe something. That is the reason there I say that there are more technically correct terms available. What are these? One of them is Bhagavan or a Bhagavati, male, female. Uh, the word Bhagavan or Bhagavati means something which I will cover in the forthcoming slides. Then Ishvara or Ishwari, Parameshwara or Parameshwari. Ishvara basically means God with form in a way. Uh, Parameshwara basically means ultimate. The word Parama obviously means ultimate. You can say Ishvara itself is actually sufficient. If you really want to qualify it, you can say Parameshwara also. Ishwari or Parameshwari also are valid. Then there is a word called Paramatma. The reason why we cannot just say Atma, technically Atma is also correct. There's nothing wrong with that. English, I think it becomes Atman. Some use that term, and I think the root is again Atman. However, again from Sri Sharma's speech, the word Atma is derived from Atnoti Vyapnoti. Now, Vyapnoti basically means which spreads, is pervasive. Atmanoti possibly means that which is radiant. So that which is radiant and is pervasive is what is Atma. However, from a general use perspective, Atma or Jivatma is used to refer to an individual soul, what is present in all living beings. Please note this point. Hinduism does not say only human beings are divine. This is possibly one of the few faiths, or uh, probably the largest, it's the most significant among the large faiths, which actually says scripturally that all human beings are divine, not just, all living beings are divine, not just human beings. So the Jivatma or the Atma is typically used to refer to the soul in living beings in the world. That is the reason there is a qualifier called Paramatma, which basically is used to refer to the supreme being. So you may have heard of these terms, Devata, Deva, Devi. These are typically derived from that root called Div, which basically means radiant, light, having light, Swayam Prakasha, right? So again, not technically the same as God. Another reason for this is Deva, Devi, Devata can be a deity, not necessarily the ultimate supreme being. Okay. However, these are all terms that we can use, which are more in line with the concepts of Hinduism rather than the generic word, which is also possibly Abrahamic in origin, which is God. Okay. Now, let us come to Bhagavan. The word Bhagavan or Bhagavati is actually derived from the word Bhaga. So, he or she, uh, if you really want to assign a gender, who has Bhaga is Bhagavan, right? Now, for example, Balavan, right? He who has Balava is Balavan. So who has Bhaga is Bhagavan. Now, what does this term Bhaga actually mean? It indicates 6 attributes. Aishwaryam, wealth or light, more appropriately wealth. Uh, Aishwaryam is also basically the that which is Ishwaras is Aishwaryam. So remember that adjective form of a noun of Vasudeva, Vasudeva, of Dasharatha, Dasharathi, of Ishvara, Aishwaryam. So Aishwaryam actually means wealth, not necessarily money. Health is wealth, friends, family, uh, the good weather, your comforts in life, everything is wealth, right? So it is not just money. All kinds of prosperity are the forms of the divinity, are forms of divinity. So the first attribute of Bhaga or Bhagavan is Aishwaryam. He possesses or he can bestow Aishwaryam. He possesses lordship over everything, right? So Ishvara is the Lord. So he has Aishwaryam or lordship over everything in creation. So that is the meaning of this word called Aishwaryam. Apart from that, Dharma, obviously, Dharmasya Parvarachyutaha is a statement from the Vishnu Sahasranama. Uh, Dharma, the code of conduct, the rules by which creation exists are set, are sustained by the Supreme Being, Ishvara. Therefore, this is one of the attributes of the word Bhaga. Then Yashas, fame. Obviously, there is nobody as famous as God in entire creation because He is creation. Then Shri. Shri basically means glory, auspiciousness, something good, light, beauty. It means multiple things. Now, obviously, God possesses all these attributes. Therefore, this is the fourth attribute. Then Jnana, conscious, wisdom, knowledge. And lastly, Vairagyam. So, the interesting aspect of the Vairagyam basically is Raga, in a way, is attachment. So, Viraga or Vairagyam, the state of having no Raga is Vairagyam. So, the idea is God or Ishvara creates everything, runs everything, but it is what is not attached to it is not impacted by it. So anything which happens to creation does not impact God. So to give you an example, in fact, this is an Advaitic example. The sun is reflected in water. The water moves, the sun doesn't move. That is the example. So that is an example of uh, how God exists without being impacted by creation. So these six attributes, Aishwaryam, Dharma, Yashas, Shri, Jnanam, and Vairagyam, are six attributes of this phrase Bhagavan. Not just this, if we look at the Vishnu Purana or the Devi Bhagavata, Vishnu Puranam or the Devi Bhagavatam, Bhagavan is also said to be that person or that male, that entity, that being, which knows and controls six things. What are these six things? The first is Utpatti. Uh, Self-explanatory, I'm assuming you can understand this directly. Creation of what? Everything. So, Utpatti or creation, then Pralayam, dissolution. Small important point, as far as we are concerned, probably it is destruction because our existence is no longer there in Pralaya. However, the technically correct term is dissolution because that entire creation is taken back into Ishvara. So it uh, bursts forth from him or her, and during the pralaya or the so-called destruction, it actually dissolves back into him or her. That is the reason instead of destruction, the more appropriate term is laya or pralaya, right? Utpatti pralayam of what? Of the entire creation of the universe. Then jananam, birth of everything. So Utpatti is the universe itself. Jananam can be of the beings, the living beings inside that universe. Then obviously Maranam. Bhagavan knows Utpatti, creation, destruction, birth, and death. So basically, what this means in a way is we don't know when our lives are going to end, right? Nothing is within our grasp. So, however, Ishvara, Bhagavan being all knowing, knows all of these things. So the Utpatti, Pralayam, Jananam, Maranam, two more. Bandhanam and Mokshanam. What does this mean? So this actually is in a way a sequence. First, there is creation. At the end of a cycle of creation, it is dissolved into the Supreme Being. Inside that creation, when creation comes into being, there is the Jananam or the birth of living beings. Obviously, they die, which is Maranam. On top of that, in creation, as long as beings exist and they do not attain moksha or liberation, not heaven, please note this. In Hinduism, heaven is not the ultimate aim. Moksham, mukti, salvation, not salvation, liberation is the ultimate aim. So, as long as that living being does not attain moksha or mokshanam, it is said to be in a state of bandha or bandhanam. So you are bonded to samsara, to the world. So Bhagavan or Bhagavati is that person who knows these six things in creation. So as I mentioned a little while back, the concepts that we are talking about here are not applicable to a Hindu god, so to say, but to the supreme principle universally. No faith on this planet can say that the concepts that have been put forth by Sanatana Dharma or Hinduism are not universal. It is simply not possible. Right? Now, let's also talk about Ishvara and end this particular video in this mini series. I'll touch upon the rest of the content in the other videos. Let me talk about Ishvara and kind of end this video. Ishvara, as we discussed a little while back, we will come to the concept of Parabrahma in the next video possibly. Basically, the supreme being with form can be called Ishvara in a way, right? Okay, Ishvara, Ishwari. Now, again for Ishvara, there are six defining aspects. Ishvara again is something which means Lord or ruler. It can mean that. Then, so you may also have heard slightly varied terms. Isha, which is a Pumlinga, masculine. Isha is the feminine or the feminine gender. Isha Ishvara, pretty similar things. Now, the term Ishvara also has 6 defining aspects. First is Sarvajnata. Obviously, Ishvara is omniscient, knows everything. Uh, Ishvara is an embodiment of knowledge. So there is nothing that is not known or that cannot be known by Ishvara. So Sarvajnata, the omniscience is actually one defining aspect. Then Nitya Trupti. So what this means, Nitya is like you can say eternal in a way. Trupti is satisfaction. Ishvara does not want anything, right? So imagine I am a human being. I want a good life. I want good food. I want good health. I want my loved ones to be happy. I want a good job. I want a good salary. I want a good car. I want a good house. There's no end, right? I want a lot of things. Ishvara does not have this. So uh, this trupti or satisfaction is ever present. Is a defining aspect for Ishvara. He does not want anything. He's ever satisfied. Human beings like us, it is difficult to reach that stage. Obviously, right? There are people who reach that stage. However, it's not so simple. So nitrupti is one of the defining aspects of Ishvara. Then anadi bodha. Anadi basically means na adi, without beginning. Bodha again is knowledge, which basically means is related to the Sarvajnata concept in a way. Ishvara knows everything that is there from like forever, right? Forever. He does not need to be taught. Now, I am a human being. I need to be told what is divinity, what is not divinity, who's a guru, what should I do, what should I not do, whether I do what I'm supposed to do, whether I don't do what I'm supposed to not do are separate things. However, I need to be taught everything, right? So there is nothing that has to be taught to Ishvara. That is what Anadibodha basically means. Swatantrata, freedom, ultimate, complete freedom. There is a Sanskrit, there are, I think, 3 Sanskrit words: Kartum, Akartum, Anyatha Kartum. So there are these 3 words. Okay? Kartum, which basically means doing something. Akartum, which basically means not doing something. Anyatha Kartum, neither this nor that. So obviously not something that we can very easily understand as a concept. However, Swatantrata basically means God, Ishvara, Bhagavan has this ultimate freedom or uh, liberation, or let's say freedom, to do whatever he or she wants. He can do something, he can not do something, he can do something else. So that is an aspect of Ishvara which human beings obviously don't have. Then Aluptata, lack of lack. What it means is Luptata basically means something not being there. So somebody who's uh, let's say if we take the term Lupta Dhana, it can typically mean loss or lack of wealth or prosperity, right? Similarly, Arogya can be Lupta. Peace of mind. Luptata basically means lack or something not being there. Aluptata basically means lack of lack. So there is nothing that God or Ishvara lacks. And lastly, Anantata is infinite. So remember in I think the last but one video also before this, we also spoke about the concept of being eternal, right? So there is no limitation imposed by space or time for the simple reason that space and time are Ishvara. So because of this, Anantata, the concept of being infinite, the concept of being eternal is the 6th defining aspect of Ishvara. There was never a beginning, there is no middle, or rather, there was never a beginning. He has always existed. There is no end. He will exist forever. Because of this, there is no middle. If you have a beginning and end, there is a middle, right? So, Adi Madhyantarahita. We heard this term a little while back also. Adi Madhya Anta Rahita. So these 6, and again, if you say that uh, does he exist in this direction, that direction? No. So there is a phrase in the Purusha Suktam from the Rig Veda where it says that Atyatishtat Dashangulam. It basically means some people have interpreted this to mean that Ishvara, God, kind of exceeds this creation by Dasha Angulam 10 inches. So what I understand from again Sri Sharma Garu is that this does not necessarily mean 10 inches. Dasha Angulam. Angulam is an inch actually technically, but it means that he exceeds creation in all 10 directions. 8 for the 4 cardinal directions, 4 intermediate directions, and then top and bottom. So 10 directions. So basically God is somebody who uh, exceeds the boundaries of this creation in every conceivable direction. That is what the Atyatishta Dashangulam concept from the Purusha Suktam actually means. Uh, I think so. We started off with what are the technically correct terms for God in Hinduism: Ishvara, Bhagavan, Parameshwari, Paramatma. Then we also spoke about, in fact, 12, 6 aspects of one category, 6 aspects of another category of the term Bhagavan. Now we touched upon the concept of Ishvara and what are the 6 defining concepts of Ishvara. In the forthcoming video, we will be touching upon the concept of Parabrahma, which is again extremely unique to Hinduism and Sanatana Dharma. Thank you for watching this video. Hope to see you in the forthcoming videos also. Namaste. Thank you.